Ladies and gentlemen, this is the Golden Shovel Wrestling Podcast, where after 23 years, we are going to sit here and talk about John Cena for the next hour. And we're going to start by pretending to care about the rest of the wrestling this weekend, but we're going to go through John Cena's entire career and what happened on Saturday night. Let's get in there. So, we are massive John Cena fans at this channel, as we have repeatedly mentioned every week for about the last 54, 55 episodes we're on there. Saturday night was John Cena's last ever match and final retirement from the WWE.
Allegedly. And
not only are we going to be giving our reaction, our opinions, our thoughts on everything that happened this year, but we've got some input from you guys in the community, so I appreciate everybody who reached out on TikTok. Ross, how are we doing this week?
I'm good, man. I'm really looking forward to diving into SNME because obviously we had a card that was very much up my street, being very NXT focused, and then obviously we had the GOAT's final match, and it'll be interesting to break down some of the reactions, shall we say, that we've seen online. It's a pleasure as always.
And Daz, from back. How are we feeling?
I am feeling good. I have survived a brush with death. All I will say is if you're going to take a shot at the king, make sure you kill him. So yeah, happy to be back. Happy to be fighting fit in time to watch the GOAT go out on his own terms. So I'm looking forward to getting into this podcast and trying to brush through the rest of the wrestling so that we can talk about the most important thing.
I know, I'm looking forward to this week because I felt last week having to hold back a little because you weren't here and we were... Because the first thing Ross said to me last week was, I'm surprised you've got a plan for the podcast that isn't talking about John Cena for another. And I was like, well, yeah, but Daz needs to be here for our conversation.
Yeah, I appreciate that, definitely.
Unfortunately for you, we do have to start with SmackDown, and because the situation in this time of year, the podcast will be slightly different for a couple of weeks because basically everything's now pre-taped, and I haven't looked at the spoilers because the pre-taped Boxing Day SmackDown, and then this Friday they're pre-taping next week's Raw, so they've taped 3 shows out, but they've got the 2 in between to fill. And having looked at the spoilers, it looks fucking dreadful, and I've no intention of watching them and giving a reaction to it. So the only thing I'm going to pull out for SmackDown, and we did tease this a few weeks ago that we were going to get to it, the time was right. Rhea Ripley teaming with Damian Priest again. Is this it's almost like a demotion, but is this just a case of they don't know what to do with right now because they're keeping away for that world title picture and they've got nothing else?
I think it's very much this will keep you busy until we get to the Royal Rumble. I don't really see what else we're putting out there for Rhea, other than they're trying to bring Priest back into the fold on SmackDown, and they have such good chemistry together as a mixed tag team. That'll make sense for a couple of weeks. I mean, we have to watch Zelina Vega, who just clunky all the way through the match as expected. But yeah, I think it's very much just something to keep Rhea busy. But it almost feels a little bit, without getting into Raw too much, it feels a little bit like, remember Jey Uso and LA Knight were in the middle of about 3 different feuds, but none of them were really actually doing anything. It's like, she's doing this stuff with Damian Priest, but she's also still doing this stuff with Io Sky and Kabuki Warriors and stuff. So yeah, it's a little bit all over the place, but definitely just keeping her busy until bigger things are available.
I mean, because it feels like it's Damian Priest's feud and Rhea's not, I say not invested because we know there's history and chemistry, because that is undeniable, that chemistry, but I don't know. I felt like they had the match before they had the build-up. The build-up was Damien versus Aleister Black, and then there was just here's Rhea Ripley. No, I'm not complaining. Rhea Ripley twice a week on TV's perfectly acceptable. But I feel as I'm going to save what I want. I'm going to save going down this thread or garden path of the women's division and how it needs to look, because there's this bottleneck still exists at the top of this division where there's so many people who need to step up. And there's nowhere for them to step to. I'm going to save that to our kind of bold predictions and bold takes for 2026 episode, which will drop first week of January, because that could be a whole episode itself. Maybe that is a squash episode, like how we fix the bottleneck, because you can't keep Rhea and Io away from the world title pictures because they are just too good. But you clearly, I would say, Ross, they seem to have a clear path where they don't just want to shove them into the tag division and have them take over. They have the Kabuki Warriors as a tag team, and they have some sort of combination of the Judgment Day. Right now it looks as though it's Liv and Roxanne, which is a really good place for Roxanne to be, because, as we always say, put young wrestlers in the ring with established talent and let them work, and they will get over and they will look strong. So there's a bit of a mess there. But do you see a path where Rhea moves back in that world title picture, not at the expense of anyone? Because I do feel like she'll overshadow Damian Priest a little bit, but then it doesn't overshadow the work on Raw. I guess it's Daz alluded to without diving too much into Raw.
Yeah, it's a really interesting one because it's a problem that if you were the lead booker is a fantastic problem to have. It's just, holy shit, I have all these actually pretty good talents. What on earth do I do with them in the main event picture? The problem they've got is that kind of suffers.
Of them,
Do absolutely fuck all.
Yeah.
Doing nothing and call it long-term booking.
Yeah, I feel like the best thing they're going to have to do at some point is they're going to have someone who is bigger than the mid-card picture stepping down to the mid-card picture again, I think, just to have something to do, because yeah, it seems like the whole Rhea Ripley thing with Damian Priest is purely going to be for these pre-recorded episodes. Maybe, depending on what the dates were, that be the Netflix special episode. I'm trying to fuzzy on when the dates are of when this is all going to...
No, so they are going live for the New Year's week. It's only Christmas week they're getting off. So it's next week. Right. Next week's pre-recorded, the following week's back to live.
Right, okay. Well, yeah, I kind of want to see them do something, because obviously, without spoiling too much of getting to Raw, she's at least going to be involved in something, but is that a one and done? I don't know. It seems to be working in terms of the fans obviously still love her and want to see more, so they must be doing something right?
I mean, it's almost like a little bit like being a victim of your own success, isn't it? Where you can be held to the side a little bit. Like, Rhea Ripley doesn't need a world title. I mean, we could go back in this conversation again, where at some point we'll be sitting here saying that one of the titles needs Rhea Ripley. Well, because
big thing.
We talked about Jade Cargill last week at length, and Stephanie Raquel's fine, but again, she's been fed a load of shit, to be honest. Raquel Rodriguez is good to see, but the fact that they had to use Nikki Bella to protect both of them is poor. Like, Raquel can take a loss to someone like Stephanie Raquel at the moment. As long as it's a good match and a good finish, like it's not going to hurt her. Stephanie Raquel's as over as anyone in the company and has got over really, really quickly. But yeah, without diving into Raw too much, because I'm very aware that we're going to talk about SNME and Cena for a long, long time. And is there anything you want to bring up from Raw apart from the whole Punk segment at the moment? Because I've got that on my notes here. But I mean,
yes, I do want to talk about Gunther. Right, because
I was saving that for obviously what happens with Gunther.
I'm not going to talk about anything to do with the match and the fallout of the match itself. I'm probably just wanting to not all of Gunther, because we'll get to all of Gunther's performance on Raw in general. We cannot make this man's gimmick that he retires people. It just can't happen. The tease with AJ is...
I loved it though.
It can't happen. It just can't happen, right? It was funny. It was really, really funny. And I think one of the things that has fallen out of this is he's now going to be a monster heel. That, like,
oh yeah,
not that he couldn't have been anyway, but the fact that he's getting this heat from the entire locker room is excellent. It sets up a perfect, whoever it is his next feud to take him into WrestleMania season. Whoever that feud may be, I'm so in for it, because the guy is he's getting nuclear heat. I sent the video into the group chat, a little boy screaming at him.
I know, it's brilliant.
Saturday night's main event.
Before the match.
Exactly. So, no, the reason I wanted to talk about it before we look at SNME is I have, and I know we have as a group, have been a bit critical of how they book Gunther outside of world title picture or being champion. I think they've struck gold, and we always spoke about, and this is something that I'm really, really interested by, because my point of view, like many others, was that Gunther didn't need the rub from John Cena. I actually think the proof's in the pudding that he probably did need the rub. I think he's got a really good rub out of it. I just hope they book it right.
Do you know? Again, without going down the whole, here's how I see everything from the start of SNME to the end of Monday night, what we're going to cover. He is the only person on the roster who can handle that heat because of how the character is. And you say he didn't need it because he was a made man, but you've turned him from, as long as they don't, as you say, I want to see him be Lesnar's last match. I don't want him to see him be everyone's last match. I have a prediction for his first feud, and I'm going to get to that, right? Mm-hmm. But see they've turned him from this, he's your big heel, to he is now, like, this is like the equivalent of Randy Orton punting people. Not like Randy Orton's a legend, but that's you've now put Gunther on that path of that's how hated he is. Like, it's just, I mean, is there anything more brutal than like what again, quote unquote, 12-6 elbows try to put John Cena? Like, that's fucking brutal.
Yeah,
we need to get through the rest of this stuff and get back to this match because I loved it, but I'm glad you've done that route because that's opened me up to how I want to ask these questions when we get to it. Ross, we'll come out to you then for the punk segment. I have this in my notes here as phenomenal. Punk at his best almost, and I think it's his best work and on the mic since he came back. Not necessarily his best as in I really enjoyed it the most or it was the most fun, but best as in it's really easy for Punk to have a batting forward with John Cena and have a batting forward with Seth Rollins because there is history with in the ring, obviously, with John and again with the Nexus stint, no, the Nexus stuff, sorry, the Shield stuff with Rollins, and then they're kind of online barbs and digs over the years, right? But this was like somebody new. Yes, I know Paul Heyman's involved, but somebody he's not got history with. It's emotional. He's right in the camera. He's matching almost the intensity of Bron Breakker, but like that more controlled intensity that Punk has. But then also we get the reveal of who the masked man is. It's who we expected. I like the reveal happening because you're not dragging out through these pre-tape shows. But what I would say is, so your thoughts on Punk, but also the fact that it was a kind of a subdued reveal, wasn't like a position of power. He was retreating into the crowd, pulls the mask off. Does that leave it open for like, this isn't, is he actually part of the vision? Is he Seth's guy who's keeping an eye on Paul Heyman in the vision? That, you know, there's more intrigue there by doing the reveal when they've done it rather than just dragging it out, because the longer they dragged it out, probably the more disappointing it could have been if it wasn't who we wanted it to be.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, I'll go for Punk first. That to me is what I have wanted to see from Punk for a damn long time, from pretty much anyone who isn't the absolute elite of the elite, because that's how I remember Punk. Like, I kind of started falling away from wrestling round about the time when John Cena squashed the Nexus. So like that old stuff before it, to me, all that time was gold. And when you've got someone like Punk was like cutting the promos and being involved in the main stories that were one of the few things that were watchable, the product at that time. But doing that, it was money. So to see it again was really good. It seemed to me like he's decided now, right, let's bring my A game. Knowing that he was able to be brought up by others, and yeah, maybe his B game was more than enough, but that felt like to me that was like a marked step up, and I'm all for it. I don't know how they're going to work it. I can't wait to see how they're going to work it, because then you've got this, as you say, the Austin Theories reveal comes around, and it gives them about 4 different directions, and I can't wait to see how they book it, because yeah, obviously the way that they reveal them, and that's not the final shot of the episode, is what to me was the biggest standout. Like, it would have been very easy for them to have the reveal, have the stare down, Punk's mouthing off, and then the camera cuts, but they let it roll for a little bit and let him be speared, and then you're like, well, now what? Where's this going? I'm very, very intrigued. This is a really, really good way of getting to a Mania feud where you don't quite know what direction they're going to go, but I'm here for it. I'm very much here for it.
I mean, we've talked about before and how we're all, I'm not saying necessarily deserves it, we're all expecting a CM Punk Night 2 main event at Mania at some point. He mentioned it last year. It's probably more than likely been part of his contract, I would imagine, or some sort of condition, or maybe a verbal that he's going to get the opportunity. And one of the clips we put in TikTok last week was Ross talking about that last week or the week before. And one of the comments was somebody saying, I don't know why we have this expectation that Punk's getting Night 2 main event. That promo last night was, that's the promo that makes me stand up and go, yes, I see a path to the main event of WrestleMania. There's a story to be told. If Punk works like that for the next 4 months, then that's who we'd be expecting to close the show in Vegas in April.
I agree. I do agree. Just on Punk, that's the best Punk's been since he come back to the company in terms of on the mic. And the simple reason being that it's the first time he's been better on the mic than the other guy. And that's not a criticism, because the other 2 main feuds he's had, 3 if you include Drew McIntyre, are John Cena and Seth Rollins for the most part. So you're behind 3 guys who are better than you on the mic. That might cause a lot of bad disturbance among some people. I don't think Punk's as great on the mic as he's made out to be, but he's consistent. He's always good, which counts for a lot, because there are very few who are always good.
Yeah.
But Punk as a package is phenomenal, and it's good to see him finally working the way that he should be working. Theory, we all knew it was, well, we all expected it to be Theory. I like the new look that he's got.
100%.
I think the new look is good. I think it suits him. Definitely a heel based on that look. Whether or not he's part of the division is something that's interesting to me, because how many people does that stable need? Because you've technically got Rollins, albeit it's very unlikely he'll ever be back in the division because of how he get taken out. You've technically got Lesnar, who's a bit like a hired hitman, who will just turn up when Paul Heyman needs him to. And you've now got Logan Paul, Austin Theory, and B&B. So there's a lot of ego in there, and there's a lot of talent involved in that. And it's how do you make sure they all go over in the division as they should? They can't all obviously go over as champions. So I'm really intrigued as to see how it works. I think the Usos' reintroduction into the tag team division may have something to do with it. So I'm looking forward to that. But I'm really intrigued by Austin Theory, because one of the Brons was obviously going to get the huge rub. I actually don't know if it might be Theory in the end up of all this. I'm interested to see where this goes. I really am. But yeah, I'm a little bit reserved on whether or not Punk's going to get his night 2 this year, purely on the basis of all the people who are due world title shots. I don't know how he would be able to fend off Brock Lesnar or Roman Reigns, etc.
I'm not saying he's definitely getting it. I think like a week or two ago, Ross and I were saying that why not give Bron Breakker a shot at the start of January, and if it doesn't work, you can always flip it back at Saturday night's main event or at the Rumble or at the Chamber. You've got chances to date and protect them. Whereas after the Monday night, I'm like, I can see a world in which I wouldn't be bored of Punk holding it if he works like that every week to Mania.
Yeah, that's where I'm at, right? Because what we've got right now is we've got Cody Rhodes, who the majority of people agree is currently an awful WWE champion in the sense of his run and what he's doing with the title. Everybody wanted Drew to take it, etc., etc. So his run's stale already. Punk runs a serious risk of going stale.
Yes,
because of the talent he's up against. It's different when he's wrestling guys like, if he had the title and he was wrestling guys like Cena and Orton, those are entertaining feuds. So those are also two guys at the height of their career. So it's fine and you watch it. But if I'm going to sit and watch Punk as world champion and he's going to go over and retain against the 4 members of the division between now and Mania, I don't want that, because that rules those 4 guys out to get a huge rub from a guy who you could argue is one of the biggest names in the business. So I do agree that he should drop it soon, but I also won't get bored of him in the ring if he's going to cut promos like that all the time. It's just whether or not he's going to be able to do that.
The thing with the Chamber is you can always put on Braun until the Chamber and have him drop it in the Chamber and have shenanigans that allows Braun to be protected, or whoever it is, a young up and coming talent, gets someone for the title and then drops it.
I don't know how they're going to do it this year. I don't know if they're going to defend the title or if they're going to do the other main event at WrestleMania spot. I don't really know how they're planning to work it, because I think we can all agree that Sami Zayn's not going to win the Royal Rumble after being seated in the crowd at Saturday night's main event. It's hardly the rub of the big guy, unless they're trying to do the big swerve and taking him totally out of TV and etc. They haven't won it. But there's a couple of guys I probably can't look by just now to go and win that Royal Rumble.
There's one that just stands out to me, but
I think there's a third. In my opinion, there's 3 people.
There is, but
one after winning the main event at Saturday night's main event, I think might also be a shoe-in given his absolute monster heel. So I really don't know where it's going to go, and I think for Punk's own good, he needs to drop the title, because he's going to hurt more young talent than do good for them, I think, in the long run.
The interesting thing with the Austin Theory situation is that there is some rumours that Heyman wanted them to be a pin eater, essentially to help protect Braun and Bronson. I don't believe that, because I think Heyman's been high on Theory for a long time, including back to the days when Theory was in the old Evolve back in the day. He's been a huge fan of him, so I very much doubt that. I think the option of Theory working with them and potentially having been sent by Seth Rollins and being an insider, and so that you can have a split, because you can turn Theory into a monster heel or a face off the back of this eventually. The avenues exist, which I think is really, really good. I think the only thing I'd be concerned about for Theory is he was kind of being, like, again, quote unquote, bullied by Grayson Waller at the end. if that type of scenario happens, a game where he's like a third wheel or a fourth wheel, how many wheels were it? Fifth wheel, sixth wheel, seventh wheel, in the Vision, and he's like the end guy, and he's like looked down upon. That's not going to help him. He needs to look strong and be built up and be like taken seriously as part of this, which I think he will be, because I think Theory, if you don't see him as a potential main eventer, which might be difficult with a couple of years he's had, he is at the very least a very reliable top end mid carder who can be maybe like a Miz type person for the next 10, 15 years. That's you entrust him with new people and rookies, and you entrust him with the mid card titles at times when they need to be brought up, and occasionally he's in the main event type feud because you need a reliable worker like that. He can be that type of person as a minimum. Like, I think he's talent wise, he's
better than Camille.
And ring, he's phenomenal. He's so good.
He reminds me so much of Dolph Ziggler, and I have the fear for him in that sense that he's going to get Dolph Ziggler and he's going to get his 1 or 2 world title reigns, but will be the perennial Intercontinental Champion from here till retirement or move to TNA. So yeah, they need to get it right. I think that's why I said that the Usos, I think that the Raw Tag Division is finally going to be okay. I think Logan Paul and Austin Theory might be due for a tag team run together if he is indeed part of the division. And the Usos cooked up an absolute storm on Monday night in that match with a New Day.
I mean,
very good TV match.
What about this for some early fantasy booking? The Usos versus Logan and Theory for the tag titles in a ladder match at WrestleMania. I mean, I'd fucking watch that. There's potential there for a story for a few months that has a big finish at the end of it. But it is now time to get into. But almost time to get into Saturday night's main event. I'm going to start by saying that we'll run through the first 3 matches quite quickly, and we'll get to Cena Gunther. And when we get to Cena Gunther, it's like all bets are off. Like, there's no, let's try and keep it to this topic. Let's just talk about what we need to talk about. Monday Night Raw, last week, week before, every week, everything that's happened in the last 23 years is on the table, and let's just talk until I see that timer at a time when we go, right, we need to move on and get it in. I'm preparing sort of for the next couple of weeks of recording, head of my operation, and I'm preparing like what the awards might look like and what the short list look like for the awards that we haven't done long list for. And I keep looking at the one I've got in here, and that's for like worst event, right? Worst PLE/worst event of the year. And I can spoiler alert on what might be in the short list. I've just thrown 2 hour SmackDown as one bracket and saying it's just been asked since we went to 2 hours when we talk about it. And I'm like, the other one thing I've been picking out is, do I take the Saturday night main events individually and throw them into the list, or do I also group them together and say, and I don't know if it's I don't know if the expectation on us as individuals is we're sitting here at 1, 2 in the morning watching it, and we in the weekend we expect pay-per-view level, LE level matches and stories and stuff. And it's this thing we call a network special, so it means nothing to us because it's the fuck's a network special. It's just wrestling on a Saturday night, and we've talked about it being jumped up house shows. And I think this is the first Saturday night's main event, but I have downplayed my own expectations for it because I'm like, I'm not being burned for a 6th time this year. Like, I'm going to accept that it's not going to be a PLE. It's an event of some level. My only disappointment with this event, genuinely my only disappointment, and it's because how I'll explain I looked at Cena Gunther, is I don't understand the concept of exhibitions between the main roster and NXT, because I'm like, if it's an exhibition, let Cody and Oba have a match. The fact that you got Drew involved means it's not really an exhibition. The story still played a part of that. Like, in my head, I thought exhibition meant one-off. Like, they'll have a match and then everything will go back to normal on Monday. But that being said, they need to find something for Oba because he's beyond ready for the main roster, and I do worry that the reason. I mean, you seen the TikTok of the guy's like, how I walk about the house now, and he's just it's just that. And I'm doing the same thing.
What the oven sees through the window of the door.
I mean, this only works for those on YouTube. Rest assured, you know what we're doing.
I know we throw this word about quite a lot, right, jokingly, but he's got the potential for aura. Like, the entrance and the walk, it's captivating people. He had the audience's
he had them in the palm of his hand.
Respect. He did on that entrance, and then in the match, people were wanting to see things from Oba, and I mean, the fucking reaction to Drew ruining the match was the start of Triple H getting it. It was, but that's like, okay, you now know you really have something with Oba Femi. You have prepped him for the main roster perfectly. Just don't fucking.
100%.
It just shows you how much they want to protect Cody Rhodes. Only one man should have won that match on Saturday night, and it should have been Oba. Whether or not there was interference for Drew, it should never have ended in a no contest or DQ. It should never ever have ended that way. And like you say, Saunders is losing an exhibition going to hurt Cody Rhodes? No, it's absolutely not going to hurt him. How can the guy take any damage from losing an exhibition? It would be his first loss in about 1 trillion years.
An exhibition to a literal monster. You know, a guy who could.
This is my worry, right? Because Oba's the best non-English native wrestler that I can think of probably ever, in terms of how easy it is for the crowd to buy in to what he wants to achieve. Like, everybody was high on Shinsuke when he joined because they all knew about his body of work. Even Shinsuke didn't captivate people the way that Oba does. And
I mean, fair enough, being £310 and Jack does help.
100%, absolutely helps. The problem, and this is, I'm trying to play devil's advocate, and I am definitely not defending Triple H in any way for the way he booked it. The only issue is, I think that had Oba won, he would have had no choice but to throw him straight into the main event. But I think you would have no choice, because you can't say to him, you're working Cody Rhodes, and in an exhibition, right? You're working Cody Rhodes and you're going to go over against Cody Rhodes, but then on Wednesday night you're going back to work NXT. I don't think that's possible.
Then, see, by not having him, but having Oba look as strong, you're not quite as backed into a corner, but it's almost the same thing. It's like
I would have rather Cody won though than the ending we got, because
and I knew you were going to say that.
What you can then say, and that's fucking saying a lot because I hate the guy.
I know,
but at least you can almost say, right, Oba, you're almost there. You're almost at the level where you can topple the world champion. And it's about how he that's his story, is how he gets to that level.
And it's the same as when Drew lost him at WrestlePalooza. We're sitting here saying the finish was just ass. Just have a definitive result. Like, see if Cody wins that match, right? We're all sitting here saying, okay, we don't totally love it. However, we understand you're protecting your WWE champion from a developmental talent, right? On paper, fine. Right now, we're sitting here going, that just fucked everybody over. Drew looks like a fucking bitch again. Cody cannot win a fucking match properly to save himself, and he's overprotected. Rather than winning matches, he's being protected. And Oba is the only person we're sitting here going, please give us more Oba Femi on TV every week, Ross.
I know, honestly. Don't get me wrong. There is a part of me that thinks that it's a really, really good way to get people to want more by not having the clean finish, because we're all going to sit here on this podcast and go, we were deprived of a full match and we were deprived of him potentially winning, or those kind of things. So if they're going to that level, which I'm not entirely convinced they are, you can make that argument. I thought it was money. I'm fascinated to see how they do it. Obviously, we've seen with Javon Evans that it is possible to have someone working what is in effect TNA, NXT, and a main roster show. Maybe that's something that's in his future, or maybe they will just let him lose his next feud and then he's off immediately and he's off to the races. I'm not entirely sure.
So
but
we discussed
one thing
this.
for certain is he will be class when he does make the step up.
This is a yes or no, because I realise that we could talk about Oba Femi for a long time, and again it's disappointing that we're not shitting Cody, but we're just like, your WWE champion is not who we want to watch at the moment. We talked this 2 weeks ago, Ross, when we said that if anything it would have made sense to not put the title back on Oba, just because it would have given a little bit more intrigue to the match with Cody, because you could have just now had Oba on the main roster.
Yeah.
Do we still think that's the case? Because I think, like, the fact that Oba now has to go and drop that NXT title is silly after what happened on Saturday night, whereas he'd done the job to Ricky Saints. He'd put Ricky Saints over, and he was wrestling exhibitions and he was appearing every few weeks and he took a wee bit of a break. I just felt like, I know you're meant to do the job in the way out, but I feel like he'd done the job in the way out of NXT, and it was a holding pattern until they had a spot in the main roster. That spot's now there, but he's going to have to go back and do a job again. And I don't feel right about that.
Yeah, it is odd. I'm not a massive fan of it.
I do have a thought about it, and it's the only light I can see at the end of the tunnel of what the way that was booked to finish. I think that the fact, like Ross says, that the leave us wanting more of Oba Femi. The problem is SmackDown's 45 minutes short of runtime in order to give us more Oba Femi.
Only for 2 weeks.
Yeah, no, and listen, I think the stars might align in the sense that Oba has unfinished business now with Cody. I think Oba might relinquish the title and chase the main and chase the main roster. I think that might be the way to go. Although poor Ricky, man, taking the title off him purely to run one exhibition match at Saturday Night Main Event, then move the guy up anyway.
That's what I'm saying. It's an exhibition
Why
match.
not just have a Cody Open challenge and just have Oba answer it? That would have been so much better.
But why not just have an exhibition between Cody and Oba? It didn't need to be champion v champion. As soon as you announced that was the issue. You didn't have to make it champion v champion. It could have been Cody versus Oba, and you're hoping is just showcasing the guy who everybody knows is next. With no Oba family's next. There's no. You don't need to pretend that you're building this guy up. He's been built up.
What I will say about Oba though is that he can't come up and not automatically go into the main event. He has to come up and go straight in, because if he doesn't, he will not make it.
So there's I see two paths. Well, three. One is, as you say, comes up and goes to the main event. The second one is he gets into the Rumble but doesn't win it, which means he's got a viable path to being away from the main event and coming back to post-Mania. And then the other option could be he dethrones Ilya Dragunov and dominates at that level. But I'd be worried about stale booking.
He would make it. I don't think he would survive that, because two things that need to happen there is who's going to realistically take the title off him if he becomes a mid-card champion. But if you start off as look at other people who have started off as mid-card. Like, look at Julia. Julia was set for the stars and you barely even see her on TV. But there's other people that it's hampered when they've held that mid-card title. Guys who did start in the main event took that demotion, as some people view it, into the mid-card just while they're looking to keep busy and have never recovered. So it's a massive, massive risk. I think Oba's the first guy probably since Finn Balor who needs to come up and win the title straight away.
Or you go with the route of he has a credible feud and someone he's going to beat, who should probably someone like, I don't know, Sheamus. Probably someone like that is the perfect guy to have, I think, as a
he should score
safe
Sheamus
worker.
Well, theory,
he would win the feud. But
the only other option is, but it's like, as you say, Daz, the 1 in a million shot is they replicate Gunther's IC run with Oba, but that's like, they've managed that once in 20 years where
is Oba that level of captivating? I'm not saying he's not, right?
I don't know.
You wouldn't know until you try it, sort of thing.
See, the other thing is Gunther, and this is the thing about wrestling fans, because the IWC get like so caught up in just absolute fucking nonsense, is that the core of wrestling fans, before Gunther gets called up, before Gunther was Gunther, there was a massive resume of Walter. People knew everything about this guy and what he was all about, what he stood for, his character, his in-ring ability. Oba's very fresh, he's very new, and I don't think you could strap a belt to that guy and have him captivate people for that length of time, because it didn't matter who Gunther made it interesting.
But the other thing with Gunther is,
sure if Oba's got that yet.
Gunther's played this. He's always been the heel character. You respect the ring, you respect the mat. He's played that same character, so it was very defined. And as you say, that was defined from his days in Germany for WXW, right through NXT UK, through NXT, the main roster. Oba to me looks like eventually a top heel champion, but right now he's a face / tweener. That's the bone. That's the steel. That's what goes stale. The heel stuff doesn't go stale. Really, it's easier to stay fresh as a heel, but as a face, it's easy to go stale. Match 2 in the card. We'll keep these next couple really short. Saul versus Bailey. It was the one match that we did expect the NXT star to go over. Again, the same position. That bottleneck in the women's division needs to sort itself out pretty soon. I thought it was a good match. I do think on Saturday night's main event, with everything that happened around the main event being standalone, these matches were a little bit squashed in terms of time, which is fine. It was inevitable. And I'll still say the same thing I said the last couple of weeks, that I just think the Soul Snatcher looks a bit when Bailey to dive into it.
Well, we've got probably a pretty good way of refuting that. Would be Darren can attest to this. Him and I sat and watched this on Discord, and we had Craig who was sitting and watched it with us because, well, he was up anyway. This is one of the few matches, the few moments, absolutely popped for that. Genuinely, when he saw the Soul Snatcher, he popped for it.
It does look badass. It's just
he's on the Soul Train, big time.
I think I'm not. Mate, after the building a Soul collection of cards here, I'm all aboard. But
so I think that shows you that I'd have loved another 5 minutes of that because it was class.
Agreed. I think it needed another few minutes. So the Soul Snatcher feels like maybe it's one of the finishers that works better with somebody you have chemistry with, because I do feel I think I'm naturally now watching another person, and Bailey was like that, looking to fin the spot. Whereas if you just watch Soul, it's like holy shit, bang. But she's we could wax a lot about. We're going to talk about it again probably in a couple of weeks when we do Breakout Star. But she's just rocket moon, and there's nothing else to be said. It's phenomenal. I'll mention the fact that Joe Hendry came out. Him and AJ Lee versus Lee.
My guy.
It's just the fact that Ross just sends me Adam a text saying, "You cunts need to listen to me more."
Honestly,
fair
like
enough.
all Craig must have heard at that moment was me popping out, just absolutely loving life, and Daz sighing, going, "God damn it!" He was right.
I know. It's fucking.
Superb.
But it shows you they're high on them. If they've had them on that show, they're obviously high on them.
Yeah, I think so.
And I hope they do find a way to make sure they blend the comedy and the in-ring work, because, again, when we talk about the overall golden shovel for the year, we will have to mention the fact that Ron Killings was Ron Killings for 3 weeks before he went back to being R-Truth, and it made no sense to him.
Working with R-Truth.
He's now exactly. So that's
the passing of the torch in itself.
That's your job for the next 15 years, is to make folk laugh. AJ Lee, whatever it is, AJ and Dragon Lee versus Leon Slater and Javon Evans. I mean, again, I had Javon Evans to that breakout of the year type conversation, because he's just, I can't not watch. Right, I do not understand how someone can jump that fucking high whilst doing things.
Doesn't it?
But while keeping it short, I want to give props to Leon Slater, because we all saw AJ slip on the ropes, which I assume was the finish at the time, and I thought very professionally Leon Slater managed to play it off, do a bit, get to a second finish, and send the credit. So, like, to me, that's like major props. 21-year-old looks like that. 21-year-old looks like a fucking seasoned vet in the ring, and fair play.
100%. I mean, it's just a shame that AJ made his first mistake in about 40 years on arguably the most anticipated wrestling show in modern history. So, yeah, it's a shame for him. But the guy, Leon, does fantastic work. And even though there was a botch, I don't think I've seen many, if any, people talk about it post. Whereas the IWC is normally rife with botches and want to try and hold people accountable. But mistakes happen. Professionals carry on as if nothing happened. And I'm really intrigued by Leon Slater, because it wasn't who I expected him to team with. If he was going to team with anybody, it wasn't one that I thought would automatically happen. I now want more of them as a team. I think it's the best way to bring Javon in and really make him a solid star. I think the two of them might get to work quite a bit on that extra hour of SmackDown, if that's where we're going. I think that's Javon's hour. I think that's where we'll see a lot more of guys like Javon, or maybe women like Soul. I think that's where we'll get a lot more of those people. Or I hope so, at least, because for the Friday nights are a fucking nightmare right now.
Friday nights in the summer, but when there was a basically NXT star on SmackDown every week, was brilliant, because that was I think that, looking back, that was our longest talking conversation about SmackDown, was 10 minutes on. This is the first time I've seen Javon Evans outside NXT, and holy shit, this is the first time I've seen Soul outside NXT, and I can't wait to see more. Obviously, Leon's contract situation will be interesting. He is TNA, but that's a hell of a fucking rub to get. As, oh, by the way, I know you don't work for us, but we want you on, as you say, one of the most anticipated shows in the history of professional wrestling, or modern professional wrestling, and we want you in the ring with AJ Styles, and you are the X Division champion of the division that AJ built basically 25 years ago. Like, that's nuts. That's an insane amount of faith to have, and that's why I'm saying, like, to walk around that botch at the end is like, yeah, okay, you deserve that, because like everybody can jump into flips and look good in the ring, but like, what happens when you need to pivot or tell a story or fix something? I thought Leon Slater looked incredible, and I was looking at his TikTok, his journey, and he was really lucky, because I think he was wrestling professionally down south at sort of 14, 15-year-old, and then COVID hit, so he lost like a good amount of time, which would have been his real formative years of wrestling. And obviously he's here, 21-year-old, going on second last before John Cena, which is absolutely crazy. And I know Ross, you're an expert on NXT. I mean, are these guys? I'm with Daz. I'm like, you know what? Them in the tag division would not annoy me. Like, imagine them in one of these TLC matches.
I know. I've got a feeling that he will skip NXT when his TNA deal's largely up. I know there's always the chat about like someone like Joe Henley, like, will he go to NXT and kick about the sort of top of the main card for a few years, or will he, won't he? This is a guy where there's no question. I get that he's still really, really young. He's shown like wisdom and knowledge beyond his years already, and Javon seems to be able to work with already a wide range of people and be able to work solo and work in a team. It just makes a lot of sense in my eyes. Obviously, now we're going to have Javon on a main roster match in one of these pre-recorded shows. so it's maybe already happened. I'm not, or is that
Yeah.
the one that'll be recorded on Friday for next week? This
that-
is all way too
it's the
confusing for
one.
me.
I think it's the one on Friday that's been recorded for Monday.
Well, that
Which is interesting.
is going to be
It's going to be on
fascinating.
Raw.
Yeah,
I find that interesting
I like
that he's
that.
working Raw. I'm intrigued by that and where that goes, because I personally thought SmackDown would be a better place for him with it going back to 3 hours. But obviously he's not contracted to either brand, so he might be able to work Friday nights anyway. I'm really intrigued by him. I don't know, he's probably not the best comparison given all that happened, but he reminds me so much of Velveteen Dream in the sense of how he works, his in-ring ability. Obviously he's a bit more athletic, which is saying a lot because the Dream was very athletic in himself. So I really, really hope that they get his push right and that he doesn't fade away into what tends to happen with cruiserweights, because this is something I spoke about at length when we spoke about could he be a top guy in the business. It's very, very rare you get someone with that level of athleticism gets to be the top guy, especially long running, because it's enjoyable to watch, but is that the face of your company? So I'm really intrigued to see that Triple H has done nothing but talk about how it's the beginning of a new era. Maybe that's the era we're in. I mean, I don't know when it starts, but
every Monday apparently. Every time they have a shite Saturday night, it starts the following Monday.
I was telling you, Ross, about the great reset of memes that's happening in January 2026.
Yes.
Maybe that's what he's referring to. We're going to get the great reset of WWE.
I think
Triple H is actually a gooner. Is that what you're saying?
Whoa.
Allegedly.
I think you made a hell of a point there, Ross, that we actually glossed over a little bit. Like, Javon Evans is showing that he can work with basically MD. He had that match at the weekend with essentially 4 high flyers 2 weeks after he worked with Gunther on Madison Square Garden on a Monday night, which is absolutely crazy.
It's mad.
He's plug and play. Wherever they need him on the main roster the next 6-12 months, they can put him there. And I think the thing with Slater is, if he goes to the main roster as part of a tag team, that's a good place to be, because if he then went back to NXT to do singles work, it's not a demotion, it's part of pivoting him out of a tag division and showing that he can work as a singles competitor. So
yeah,
I'm with you. I think there's a real strong path to that. And now it's time to get to the main event. Now, as I say, everything's on the card. So I'm going to just set us up for this, and we're going to just talk, because we all love John Cena, and I love Gunther. I think I'm all in on Gunther before this. I think he's incredible. I think he's the only guy in the company who could handle this type of heat and will turn it into something. I think if Triple H lets him, he'll turn this into being as big a heel as Randy Orton was at his peak. That's the type of heat there is. I actually really enjoyed the match. And I'm happy, I'm comfortable with the finish, I think. And the reason I'm comfortable with the finish is you deal with different types of wrestlers, right? The RKO out of nowhere is iconic, right? And the purpose of that is that it doesn't matter how badly you kick the shit around the horn. If he catches you, it's 1, 2, 3. Cena's like the Super Cena thing is, it doesn't matter how much you think you beat John Cena up. If he hulks up, right, he's going to hit you with the 5 moves and put you away. Job done. You've got spears out of nowhere. You've got like quick hits, brogue kicks, claymore kicks. You've got finishers that take long setups, and you've got high flying finishers that require putting somebody down. Right, what's a ways to win a match? Gunther's job, it's a bit like boxing someone like Floyd Mayweather or the Klitschko's, where they're not trying to knock you out. They're basically saying, you cannot beat me over 12 rounds. Mm-hmm. I'm going to beat you, and that Gunther's like, I don't have to pin you in a minute or two. I'm going to actually wear you down and beat you to the point where you cannot get back up. That's why a powerbomb finish for Gunther works, because it's like he's physically trying to put you through the mat when he does it. That's why the sleeper hold works, because he's got you locked in, he feels you wriggling out, and he starts 12-6 elbowing you to then to knock you out. And in kayfabe, it worked really well. I think Gunther's style worked really well with John Cena, because we knew we were going to get the Super Cena moments. And it was like, would I have liked him to pass out? Yes. As soon as I saw him smiling, I was like, this is it. Like, I enjoyed it. I did enjoy it. And I don't know if it's because I was more disappointed in what happened after the match. I was expecting, like, see when they had people come out to the ring, I wanted to hear Kurt Angle's music. I wanted to hear Kevin Owens' music. I wanted to get the crowd, but like the crowd went flat and they left them flat. I was like, you could have picked them back up and gave them like people paying respect to Cena. But I think I liked it because, okay, I don't want Gunther just to be retiring everybody, but I just see that you could put the title on Gunther tomorrow and he could run with it like Roman Reigns for 5 years, and I don't think it would get boring because he's just that fucking good. But what are your guys' thoughts? Because like to me this is a bit of a microcosm of the whole year with Cena. we all had our expectations for it, and I think once we adjusted our expectations, we've probably enjoyed it more because we just thought we're just going to enjoy John Cena wrestling when he wrestles, whereas other people were like, I want to see this, I want to see that, I want to see this, I want to see that, I want to see this, I want to see that. At the end of it, they went, only saw a little bit of what I wanted, and I wasn't happy. If that makes any sense to him.
I think the issue that they've got, and I mean, as Ross said earlier, Ross and I watched it together in Discord. We watched it with somebody who's not watched the product for
a long
since
time.
the Steve Austin days and stuff like that, right? So it's been a long time since he's watched any of the product, and his initial thoughts were, why did they have to tap out, right? I think it is an issue that this isn't the same level of retiring just anybody. This is retiring the greatest of all time, right?
Who
So
hasn't tapped out for 20 years.
it's an unenviable position to be in, right? Because he had to uphold the long-standing tradition of you go out on your back, right? I called for him to win purely because I couldn't watch my goat give up, right? I called for him to win. But I always knew he was going out on his back, right? And I'm glad he did because it's the right thing to do. And I thought to myself, how are we gonna make this work? The only thing I think was missing from the match, Gunther didn't apply his new submission move to John Cena that he used prior, which I felt odd. I think it was booked. I initially thought it was booked terribly, right, in the heat of the moment, much like many of the crowd who gave Baldy pelters for a long time. But the more I thought on it, the more I think it's perfect, and the way of storytelling, and I'm actually happier that he tapped out than passed out, because it's recognition for me that I said this right at the beginning in the Discord to you guys, that John was very clear, and the role of his retirement run was that he wanted to continue doing what he loved, but he knows that his body just can't keep up. It's just not possible.
He literally told us that's what
it's been staring in his face since his first promo when he told us he was doing his retirement run. And for me, it might sound soppy or stupid shit like that, but I actually don't think it was John. John's not giving up, right? John is basically saying,
my body's done.
I can't do this anymore. It's impossible for me to keep doing this.
The smile was him, his acceptance of that moment.
Of a career, a well-lived career.
He literally finished telling his story. He's told us the story since January. He's literally been telling us this whole story the whole year.
I think that what was really, really good for me, because see, this is a point that Craig made, right? And having been so far away from the product for so long, Craig said, well, what was the point of him continuously trying to get up and Hulk out, like you said, and try and get out of it, for him just to continue to put him back in the sleeper? And it's like what you said, Saunders, is that Gunther's whole ethos is just to wear you down to the point where you can't win, right? And I think that was the whole reason for the build, is that everybody expected John to not give up, because that's been his mantra the entire time. But what it actually is John going through it with one of the best in the business and saying, I can't keep up with this guy now. I cannot continue to fight. So I thought it was, in terms of storytelling and poetic, I thought it was perfect. I thought it was a really, really good way for John to go out. What I thought was really disappointing, I was really disappointed in the reactions of the fans in the arena, right? I think that people can be unhappy the way that it was booked, and they didn't want John to tap out. I get that, right? I didn't want to watch him tap out, but I'm okay with it. I'm happy with it now. I understand they're booing Triple H, right? And they're booing the booking decision. That guy has given you 23 years of his life, for the majority of which he was full-time, had many near-career-ending injuries that could have kept him out. He worked tirelessly to get back early in order to work for you. The guy who's given so much to professional wrestling, and his swan song in the ring is surrounded by boos and you fucked up and bullshit chants. And I just think if people take a step back and look and think, I know John said he wasn't booking his retirement run. There's no way John would have booked an ending that he himself was not content with.
100%.
There's no way that would have happened.
No, I totally agree. I think we have seen a shift. I think John, Randy Orton, AJ Styles, somebody who I'm going to mention in a few minutes, are the type of people who their careers are long enough that they still have the old tradition of you go out on your back. I think the next group of people, it might be different, because they've seen it work in the other company with Sting, that you could win your last match. Now, I would also argue that they've done fuck all with Darby Allin, despite the fact that Sting held his hand for 3 fucking years. Mm-hmm. But I digress. Obviously, we ourselves, Daz, I know you've listened to the last couple of weeks, haven't been no well, but Ross and I, we were kind of on the general side of the consensus that Gunther didn't need this. But as we've said tonight a couple of times, he's the only guy who could handle this if Cena was back. But also, he's the only one who could work the match in such a way that I think once everybody does take a step back and look and say that made the most sense. No one else was going to wear Cena down. It was like, again, that microcosm of Cena slowing down over this year, slowing down over 23 years, condensed into a 20-odd minute match where Gunther's job is to chop you and punch you and kick you and choke you and powerbomb you until you're done. That's the point.
The three options for John's last match, right? The three options they had for John's last match were the Gunther scenario that we have that people for some reason seem to loathe. The other option is you put over a new and up and coming talent, right? And I'll use Dom as an example, right? Because Dom's hot and cold and Dom can handle a lot of heat. You run the risk of ruining a young talent by putting that amount of pressure as being the guy who retired John Cena, right? The other option is he gets squashed in his last match a la Brock Lesnar at WrestlePalooza. Out of those three options of putting over a young talent, getting squashed, and going out against a main event talent in what was a very good traditional wrestling match, that's the best option for me. And I'm happy the way that they booked the entire match from start to finish.
As you jump in, Ross, can you also answer this? But the biggest risk with Dom doing it, if it was to be Dom, was that would be cheered because everybody loves to hate Dom, which was not the point of beating John Cena as a heel in the last match, is it?
They needed to set up the scenario that, in my head, when I woke up the Sunday morning, went, right, I want Raw to look like this. And they kind of took my idea and took it up a little notch. They needed that scenario where Gunther comes in, says very little, brags, gets the shit eaten, has that big shit eating grin on his face, gets the heat backstage, has the moment in the parking lot, and then just disappears. I'm like, you can't do that with someone who needs a face turn.
Last night's crowd were Chef's Kiss. Last night's crowd were Chef's Kiss.
They were great.
As you say,
and that, bear in mind,
Dom's face turn's coming.
They did the recording for SmackDown before that.
Yes.
So that's
2.5 hours in.
And that's the heat that he's getting. That to me says, like, genuinely that SmackDown may actually have a really, really hot crowd in general. But it was, for me, it was perfect. I've actually had some arguments with a few people who are basically, ultimately for me, I don't want to feel like I'm talking down anyone because I still am a filthy casual, but I think if you hated it so much, I just don't actually think you really understood what happened.
Before Daz goes, let me just read this out to you, right? Because I screenshot this off Twitter like an hour ago because I thought this is interesting, right? You have to look at John Cena over 23 years to understand that last match. I can get being pissed off with parts of this year, and I was as well, right? And we'd know about the heel turn. But I looked at the Saturday night's main event, and I'm talking about, like, again, I'm high on Gunther. I don't consider him boring. I think he's the biggest heel they've got, and he's the best full-timer. I think he's fucking phenomenal, right? John Cena has wrestled 18 matches this year. How many matches did he wrestle last year? And it was
7 or something?
3, 4, 1?
One match in 2024. So like official matches that's all I had last year. In 2023, he had 8 matches. In 22, he'd won 16, 1, 8, 28. You go back to 2017, 77 matches. The year before that, so it was 50, and then before that it was 136, 164. So it's actually been 10 years since he was like what you would class as a proper full timer. 8 was, I know he'd have injuries and stuff, right? So you can't expect John Cena to win when he's been apart. Like, he's been on his way out for 10 years. The retirement tour was like I'm giving you what you want as best I can, but I also think that the issue is that they were backed in a corner. I watched the interview with Chris Van Vliet, and I know people have said like it's what he didn't answer that's more interesting to answer, but what he did say was I went to TKO 2-3 years ago and said this is how I want to do it. They had to fit John Cena's retirement tour into other stories. They couldn't put everything in pause for 12 months. And what they've done now is they've set up...
He said he wanted to do 284 dates or something like that.
Which doesn't exist anymore.
Yeah,
if he'd worked every Raw, SmackDown, NXT and all the tour shows, he was still like 100 days because they don't do house shows anymore.
I think when he said he wanted to do the 284 days, I think he was just being a bit facetious in the sense that he wanted a full-time run for the full year. And I'm glad he didn't, because for a number of reasons. One being, bro, you're almost 50. You cannot survive a full year full-time wrestling with the intensity that you wrestle at now. I don't think he'd have survived, especially with his history of injuries, because when he gets injured, he gets injured. I'm glad he didn't book that tour. His retirement tour was by no means perfect, and as I said this before, and I'll say it again, I don't hold Triple H or any of the creative team responsible for that. That's down to two men, and that's down to The Rock and Travis Scott. And if The Rock built the entirety to hinge on Travis Scott being available for it, the bald cunt can leave as soon as possible, in my opinion, because that's nonsense. The Rock massively let Cena's retirement tour down, and I actually think in a couple of years' time, when people look back on it, his heel turn was nowhere near as bad as people think it was. I think he did some of his best work as a heel. I mean, look at the reverse pipe bomb. That was part of his heel persona. His best matches in his retirement tour were as a heel, albeit at SummerSlam he flipped and became face with it, but he was still technically a heel in the build-up to that. I think that if you
there's a squash episode if you go back a couple of months where Ross and I do discuss Cena's heel turn and why it was ultimately, we've said perfect in the title, right, a bit clickbait, but why it wasn't that bad. And the reason was, as you say, once it got going, his work was good. We were disappointed by two people. If you're willing to ignore the fact that, or accept the fact that The Rock is a bit of a cunt and no one actually likes him anymore, then it was good, but it also gave us this John Cena having fun for 3 or 4 months at the end, but which couldn't have happened without the heel turn.
Yeah,
but anyway,
100%.
Back to your point, I just wanted to plug that episode.
No, you're fine. I don't have an issue with them turning him heel. I thought it was perfect at the time as well. I thought the way that they did it, the reveal, everything was spot on, absolutely perfect.
Which, by the way, also plays into the whole story, been still in his face the whole time. The concept at the time was that John Cena was old, his body was letting him down, and he needed corporate help and to cheat to guarantee the Never Seen 17. It's been there the whole time. It has literally been staring us in the face for the last 10 months.
100%.
I don't want to accept it. I don't want to accept that I'm going to watch wrestling and never see him in the ring again. But I'm going to have to at some point because I'm 34 years old.
I have made my peace. I have made my peace with it. That I know Ross is still holding that candle that he's not done, and there's going to be another match.
Might just happen.
I think when a guy like John Cena says there's no check you can cut me, it's the only guy in the business I believe, and I think he's the only guy who wouldn't swerve us. It's just built up in the imaginary relationship that John and I have built over the last 23 years. We're quite tight that way. But yeah, I'm happy for John and his retirement tour. I actually think when you look back at it, I think it's a good retirement tour he's had. We've had the fan service moments. We got to witness history that's unlikely to be broken in our lifetime. He's a 17-time world champion. That's very unlikely to be broken in the way that they operate in the business today. It's long title runs. It's very unlikely that's going to get broken.
There's also a 9-year gap between 16 and 17, which again, you would need the age that these wrestlers now are, because they're all in their 40s, you'd have to win it 2 or 3 times a year to even think about getting close.
Yeah, and if you look at guys like Randy Orton, they totally killed him in the world title picture because they know he has a few years on John and theoretically could have surpassed him, but there was no point. I think when even guys like Ric Flair are saying that he should have won 17, we've been lucky enough to exist at a time in professional wrestling where we've seen the most historic things happen. You can stick your Hulk Hogan body slamming Andre the Giant up your arse. I really don't care. You've got Gunther's IC title run, historic. Tribal Chief Roman Reigns, like nothing will top that, in my opinion, in terms of a title run.
The Fiend Bray Wyatt as well.
Fiend,
that could have been like they fucked it. Could have been.
And we got a chance to watch history with John Cena breaking the unbreakable record almost, especially when you consider who Ric Flair is and what he did for the business. So I think when you package up his retirement tour, it's probably a 6.5, 7 out of 10, which for a guy at his age, I don't think Chris Jericho could run a tour that well. I don't think there's anybody in his age bracket who could run the same retirement tour.
Yes or no? One word answer, Daz. Is it a 6.5, 7? Pause. There's still a part of our brain that wants to see 2007, 2008, 2009 John Cena. You know what I mean? Like, the expectation is so high, whereas ultimately we got 48-year-old part-time John Cena. That's what we had. I
think it's a 6.5 on the basis of what I wanted. I think if I review it in a year, it'll be an 8.
Yeah.
I genuinely think
that's what I'm asking. That's what I'm asking. I
genuinely think it'll be better.
And by the way, if Travis Scott and The Rock could turn back up at WrestleMania, it's probably a 10. Ross, I'm going to come to you quickly. Not quickly, but I'm waiting the time and I want to get to Gunther's future here. I think we've covered the match. I think we're all in agreement that the actual match itself was good. If you separate the finish from the match was really good. The finish was subjectively, you can decide what you want. We're all like, the whole point of that's how Gunther wins a match. He wears you down, and he wears down the guy who's 40, who's spent 12 months telling us his body's gone. What about this? What about the post-match send-off? Darren's alluded to it perfectly. 20,000 people should hold their fucking heads in shame, hang their heads in shame, be like, you're booing the greatest of all time. He got the video package. I did want a lot. I do think they're going to find a way to use this to sell tickets to a proper Hall of Fame event where it's John Cena, and that's when we get the proper packages.
Yeah.
I think that, like, because John Cena could have his own night for the Hall of Fame, and people.
I think he will get his own night.
Aye. So I think
I would imagine that's the reason why RKO was not on.
Yeah.
Not on the show.
Saudi at Beastland or something, isn't he?
Well, but he wasn't even on. I don't think he was even on the VT though. He wasn't on the VT yet.
No,
which tells its own story.
I think they're saving people for that. Also, what I laughed at, and I'm setting you up here. So yeah, that whole bit, and also the post show straight away. Cody Rhodes ringside, green, and I'm thinking to myself, that meme is like, go in there and make it about you. That's all I can think.
Which is kind of what Drew said on Twitter when the screenshot came out of the screenshot from the video of him kind of being focused on. Yeah, I was a little surprised that they never gave him a microphone. That's probably the thing that shocked me.
Yes.
I think, yes, the crowd get too caught up in what they wanted to happen versus what was ever going to happen, and that did take the edge off. I know that they weren't booing him and they were booing H, but come on, time and place, let's be cognizant of that. I thought the package was really good, actually. Like, watching it was really, really like emotional.
Oh,
I don't know why they didn't put the camera on him. The title belts thing was a kind of nod to Hogan, which I quite liked that, because that's kind of how Hogan went. Cena was actually one of the guys who handed him one of the belts to do it, which was cool.
The best thing with the belts as well, though, was Cena was trying to say, no, I'm not
don't do that.
And they're like, no, you need
You're
to
doing
do
this.
It was like, it was real. That didn't look scripted. That looked real.
I think it was John's decision not to take the microphone.
It's a Hall of Fame.
No, I don't even think it's Hall of Fame. I think it's based purely on that interaction in the ring. I don't think he wanted a big song and dance made about him hanging up his boots or Skechers in this instance. He clearly didn't want to do his lap of honour. He didn't want any of that. And what I actually thought was really nice is that the fans watching at home got the only thing he said out loud. The fans got it. It's been a pleasure serving you all these years. Everybody around the world got that, which was really, really nice. Yeah, he will go in the Hall of Fame this year. There's no two ways about that. I think he should have his own night, personally, because, I mean, it starts at like fucking midnight or something now, doesn't it? And it lasts about 12 hours. So they could do a whole show on himself. It's Vegas. They'll sell a buttload of tickets at an astronomical price to hear him give his retirement speech. The package was good. But yeah, I think the only sour note that hangs for me is that the crowd, I just really disappointed in the crowd, and not in the sense that they're unhappy. They're allowed to voice their frustrations. They bought a ticket. They're well within your rights to boo. It's like going to football, and you're within your rights to boo, but I think
boo it for 10-15 seconds and then get back to the fact that it's John Cena retiring.
I don't necessarily even mind the booing at the finish. It was nice to see the surprise faces a la the streak being broken, because it was that big a moment. But I think that the bullshit chants are probably a step too far, in the sense that John, you can actually see John apologising and saying that I fucked up, it's my fault. Almost trying to tell the crowd I helped book this shit, so like, it's not bullshit. Yeah, overall, I'm not going to say much else on this match other than my goal is gone forever.
Obviously, I wasn't well on Saturday, so I wasn't in Discord, but What did you actually feel at the end? Because like I genuinely just felt numb. I was just staring at the screen like it's over. And I've seen a lot right on TikTok and Instagram and Twitter in the last few days. So a lot of it's like wives and girlfriends saying, "Why is my husband acting like this? Why is that?" And like the comments are all like, most guys saying like, "I don't think you understand. Like this is for a lot of people. This like I'm wearing my, but this is for a lot of people. This is like the." But I feel like my childhood, that's the end of it. Like professional wrestling is like the last time of my childhood. And like in my head there's a world in which I don't want to say I stopped watching wrestling, but like I don't feel the same pull to it because I'm not going to see John Cena and Randy Orton, these guys, for AJ Styles next year. I just felt like numb, as if like, holy fuck, it's actually like the last 20 years of my life has been like a John Cena stan non-stop, like never swayed. And like and that's that it's not the guy, it's what he is and what he's represented for the last 20 years. It's like I was literally 10, 11 years old when John Cena debuted. That's ridiculous. I mean, I saw some TikToks, you know, if you watch them, they'll keep recommending people's stuff again. And I've people before, like, why is my husband so obsessed with this Saturday night? Why is, well, and then like after it, and they're basically, okay, like, I do get it. I can understand. It's like,
what it reminded me of.
It's over. That's it. It's done.
Yeah. What it reminded me of, there was a video I saw months ago, right? And it was, the people in the comments were lambasting this woman, right? But it was, she found her husband in like a sort of garage workshop, whatever, and he was getting like really, really like tearful over something, and she's like, "What the hell is wrong with you?" And he's kind of looking at, I think it was like a roll of tape or something like that, one of those kind of like long use things or rope or whatever it was, and he was like, "I bought this like 20 years ago, and I'm at the end of it." And it's just hitting me like, that's been 20 years since I done that thing, and he starts kind of reflecting on his life. It probably was like that for a lot of people. Like, I remember when the bell went, I just kind of nodded and went, "Nice, nicely done." I think Darren just kind of went, "Oh, it's over."
Aye, I was just numb. I just like, I can't believe it's over.
I agree with you, Saunders, right? Because I enjoy.
We love him.
I enjoy professional wrestling, right? I always have, and I hope that I always will enjoy it to a certain degree, right? And there's no coincidence that my love has been massively reignited to coincide with the fact that the GOAT was doing his retirement tour. I like some of the up and coming talent, guys like Dom Mysterio, Steph Kerr, you know, like Javon Evans. These people who are coming up in Bron Breakker, who are going to be the next generation. But I am not connected to them in any way, in the same way that, and that's fine because they're not my guys. They're guys that
You're 30,
belong
not
to.
20, not 10. That's the difference.
Stop trying to dox me online. There's guys like these guys belong to 6, 7-year-olds, 8-year-olds now who are growing up. I mean, and that's fine. This is their generation of wrestlers, in the same way that the ones that came before us don't appreciate John because they grew up on Hogan and Austin, and that's fine. I'm fine with that. They have their own era, and to me, it's, you know how you see like in football, you see a team photograph of like the Dortmund team, for example, that went to the Champions League final, and then next to it you see a black and white one, and it was only Royce that was left because everyone else had left and he stayed loyal.
Aye.
I kind of feel that way about Randy Orton. He's now like the only one left that I feel I have a proper emotional attachment to, because Orton was the guy who got me into wrestling, but John quickly became my favourite and always has been. I feel a bit like yourself, Saunders, that the few things that I loved about my childhood have mostly gone, and because I am, as you correctly pointed out, I'm 30 years old now, I'm supposed to be an adult, and I feel like a chapter has closed for me with professional wrestling, and I now need to decide whether or not I want to continue beyond maybe the next 18 months, because I'm still invested in the stories and stuff right now because I've been in it full time. I think, see, once we get to the end of Mania and they start to reset everything and try and rebuild, I'm actually interested to see if I've still got the desire for wrestling, because I feel like a massive part of my love for it, the book's closed. I'm intrigued by it. I really, really am. I don't know. I feel like, see, even like you say, he's only wrestled one match last year and it was a handful the year before, blah, blah, blah. It's been 10 years since he was full time. I still feel like, I don't know, it felt like his presence was always there. But I don't know if that's a mental thing for me because he's my greatest of all. I don't know.
But we know he did. He used to do occasionally he'd turn up. You know, he appeared at Money in the Bank in London. He did a couple of WrestleMania segments with like Elias and stuff like that. That was always there. I feel like this is real. Like, I feel like if John Cena was going to appear on a show, they would announce it because it would sell tickets. Mm-hmm. I don't think you'd get a surprise anymore. And I also feel like, I'm with you. I think he means it. And I think obviously the difference is real. Hollywood will pay him more than a one-off wrestling fee. That's the thing. He doesn't need the money. And I do think that he'll understand that Saturday night, a lot of people saw that as people paid thousands of pounds to be there, thousands of dollars, like to the point where like I did say on the air that I was looking to go, and I would have been in Boston because that's where the original rumours were. Unfortunately, I've been miles away. But
yeah, you would have been miles away.
Like I'm like actively keeping an eye on everything because I'm like, if he comes back to the UK for like a Comic-Con type appearance, I want to be there because I want to go and meet the guy. But I'm like you. I'm not sitting here saying that I'm going to stop watching wrestling. But it's like the many people I when they find out I like wrestling, go, oh, I look at this back in my day with Big Daddy and Giant Haystacks and then Hulk Hogan. I'm like, that like, might not be us, but people in our generation will become that soon.
It's quite funny, right?
Because that's it's I obviously
I
don't,
was
I
at my
don't want to
work.
end the pod because I feel like if we end this pod, we're never going to talk about John Cena again. I don't
Yeah,
want
I know.
to stop.
And it's funny you say that because I was at my work the tail end of last week and it's usual Friday chat, what's your plans this weekend, blah, blah, blah. And I said, oh, Saturday, distiller away to Broth, blah, blah, blah. I says, you going out on Saturday night? He says, no, I've got plans on Saturday night. What's your plans? I'm watching the wrestling. And you get those kind of looks like 30 years old, why are you watching wrestling? And then you get the classic, you know that's fake, don't you? And I'm like, it's not fake, it's scripted. Anyway, but without digressing into that conversation, they're like, so do you watch it all the time? And I say, well, yeah, I do a podcast, blah, blah, blah. He says, but I'm really, it starts at 1 a.m. and sometimes I don't make the effort to sit up and watch them live. I will never watch another WrestlePalooza to the day I die. But it's burnt in my memory like a great balls of fire. But I says, there's not a chance I was ever going to miss this show. And they asked why, and I told them it's John Cena, and it's my childhood. I feel like I've been on that ride for 23 years, and it's finally time to get off. But I am kicking and screaming and refuse to leave the chair. I've made my peace with the finish. I think it's perfect. I think it's a great ending for him. Keep him off TV all the way up until it's time to induct him into the Hall of Fame. Don't have him appear backstage or appear in a video package or anything like that. Just keep him away because I can't stand the thought of him being there but not actually being there. And no doubt the guy will come back and host a WrestleMania or something like that in the future. He will 100% still be involved. He's an ambassador for life. Yeah, the only other thing I wanted to say on this podcast about John Cena, and I thought that this was really, really great, was that two things that intertwine. Why the fuck they used that old clip of Vince McMahon is hilarious in his video package, because obviously Vince was the guy that made him into Super Cena. I understand that.
You did see John's reaction, he obviously.
Yeah.
Touched with the fact that they did include him.
The fact that they included him, which is great. Although risky with that volatile crowd. And the fact that Steph got the credit she deserves, because Steph made him. Steph gave me a chance and really, really put him out there on TV to showcase, which in my opinion is still the greatest character of all time in terms of gimmick. This Doctor of Thugonomics is by far and away the greatest gimmick of all time. Because of the era it was done in. Wouldn't fly now. It couldn't do it every week now.
No, I know.
But yeah.
Let me pitch you something, Ross, to give us the close of the show, and then we'll move on to the next recording. Obviously, what Gunther does next is massively, massively important. I personally would call for him being off telly for a couple of weeks, or his next time on telly should be the Netflix special, the opening for the year, and it should be the same type of thing. He comes in, gives the crowd his smirk, says that I retire John Cena, not the generic one like a proper Gunther type promo, and then just leaves again. But what about this for a pitch? Gunther taps out John Cena. Who was the first person to tap John Cena out 22 years ago?
Oh, I read this. Oh, God.
Daz knows.
I did read it and I don't remember.
Arguably one of the most iconic submission moves in history.
Come on, Ross.
A man who's expected to return at some point in the next few weeks or months.
It's not going to be Chris Jericho, is it?
Is that Gunther's
That's a good way of doing it.
I was the first man to tap him out. I was the last man. There's your Royal Rumble match. Boom. So big money.
If that is going to be a retirement tour, he is going to retire Chris Jericho. So
he's
okay with that, then.
He's going to triple threat AJ and Jericho at WrestleMania.
The same time.
Both in one evening.
A Gunther Gauntlet match. Everybody's planning to retire in the next 12 months gets to go Gauntlet match with Gunther. And if you survive, you get to have a tour. If you don't, that's you done.
Yeah, I think that's an idea.
I mean, that's the end of the show. That's the end of the show, guys. We've ran an hour and 20 minutes talking about John Cena. I'm sure everybody's learned the course of the year. We love him here. It is a massive part of our childhood. It's now disappeared, now gone forever. At least that's how we're interpreting it. We think he is the guy who will stay true to his word. As Daz mentioned, we started the podcast with a WrestleMania season. Probably a lot of it was tied into the fact that we were so invested in him being on TV every week. I don't think we'll drop off too much moving forward, but I know there's a huge amount of people that are part of our generation that will now see, well, maybe Randy Orton keeps him around, but ultimately we're going to turn into back in my day, we had this guy John Cena. But we aren't done talking about him yet, because we do have to go and now record our match of the year discussion ahead of the awards at the end of the month. So we've got that coming on Saturday. Take it easy, guys, and we'll see you then.